Good evening all, and welcome. Gas stations are maybe something that most people take for granted. They're just there and a part of our lives. But did you know that incredibly creepy things can happen there? Well, you're about to find out. So stay comfortable, follow me on Twitter, and let the darkness take control. My family live a state away from me, and at the time that this happened, I had just turned 18. I'm a 21-year-old female, and my mum would finally let me drive to go see them, which was about a 5.5-hour drive. No biggie. I was like, bet I can smoke some weed on the drive that easy, and I did just that. About halfway there, I needed to stop and get gas and snacks. As you can guess, I had the munchies. I wasn't very familiar with the drive or where the gas stations were on it, and they were kind of spread out. So, as soon as I felt it wasn't smart to wait until another gas station came up, I pulled off the highway. I have always been sort of suspicious of people in general, because I've not had an easy childhood, and grew up learning to just kind of feel when things aren't right. So I wasn't really worried about being by myself, because I knew how to handle myself. So I pull up to this relatively empty gas station, maybe with one or two other cars, but it was a larger one, with one of those antique shops in it. I parked at a pump, locked my doors and go inside. There was no one at the counter yet, and a sign was on the counter saying that they would be right back. So I go and pick up a snack and a drink. Well, when I previously walked in, I noticed a man in his late 20s, kind of wandering in the store. I saw him glance over at me when I walked in, but didn't really think about it, not really paying him any mind. I went and opened the door to the soda fridge and was perusing them when he comes right up next to me and opens the one next to mine. This wasn't particularly weird to me, but the fact that he was literally all the way across the store when I came in, and then as soon as I go over there he does too, I was like, okay, I'ma look for a different drink. So I go to the tea section and stand there for a sec, and he follows me right to the next one again. Only this time he looks at me, smiles a creepy-ass closed-lipped smile and says, "Hi." I do want to say that even though he could have easily have just been trying to be nice or flirt, I had an instant creepy vibe from him when he first walked over, and that intuition has never failed me before. At this point I just look at him, nod and grab a can of something and go to the counter, and think to myself that I can just grab a snack later. He comes up right behind me with one of those jerky sticks, literally did not even grab anything from the refrigerators that he was looking in right next to me, and just stands super close. I mean, he was right up behind me. I could feel his body heat and his breath on the back of my neck, and I literally just wanted this cashier to come over here so I could get out the way. I start calling for someone, but no one comes to help. The dude behind me is texting on his phone, and looking around at the door like he's expecting someone to show up. Finally, I'm like, screw it, I'm out. I leave my drink on the counter and walk out. He follows me. At this point, I literally run to my car, and I remember feeling him grasp my jacket. But with the momentum of my arm swinging, he didn't get a firm hold. I hop in, lock the door, and turn my car on at record speed. We make eye contact from out of the corner of my eye, and I see two men running from around the corner of the gas station. They all three run at my car, which is not very far from where the first guy is, and I floor it out of there, almost wrecking my car on the corner. I don't know what they were planning on doing, but I imagine I was about to get kidnapped. I called the police because I don't know where the cashier was, and I just had a bad feeling they did something to them. The guys were gone when the police got there, and I now carry a knife on me when I go out on that drive. Creepy dudes, let's not meet again. When I was 19 to 20, I used to work for a well-known gas station chain. A lot of the time on evening shift between 4 and 12 I was alone, though both cash registers were behind a wall of plexiglass, and there was still a 2 to 3 foot opening between them, where a sliding door is for the night shift to close to avoid robberies. It was about 5 p.m. and still daylight when this guy came in. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up when he walked in. There was something about him that just wasn't right. I should also add that I'm a female. He walked to the back of the store, made it seem like he was looking for something in my coolers and by the back shelves. He never once picked up anything to read or look over, and every now and then he'd look up at me and gradually made his way towards me, but would retreat to the back of the store when someone came in. And this went on for about 10 minutes. These 2 women came in and went to my coolers at the back of the store. I quickly wrote on a note of paper that said, "Please stay with me so I can call the cops." Then one of the ladies came to pay. I showed her the note. She nodded and went and told her friend. I had my eye on this creepy guy while trying to keep from completely panicking. One of the ladies leaves the store and the other lingers around it. She looks outside and sees something, then leaves. Immediately after she left and I was about to hit call, the creepy guy rushes up to the counter. He looks at the glass door and is about 2 feet away from me, then bolts. I look outside and the 2 ladies are talking to the cop that had just pulled up as the creepy guy was rushing to my counter to get gas. The creepy guy must have seen the cop and decided it wasn't worth it. The cop looks over the guy as he takes off, then comes inside to talk to me. I explained to him his behavior and how my finger was on the call button as soon as he pulled up to get gas. The 2 ladies came in to make sure I was alright and then left. The cop leaves, then comes back around 30 minutes later saying they picked up the guy. He explained the guy was high on meth and he was looking for someone to rob to fuel his habit more. He was also in possession of a hunting knife, and the cop figured he would have seriously harmed me to get what he wanted. To this day I thank my lucky stars the cop pulled up when he did. Dear meth head, let's not meet again. Let me take you back to the summer of 2016. I was 15 when all of the weird clown stuff was happening. Me and my little sister and my mother went on a road trip to see my grandparents. Now at this point we were on our way back home, and we were in Georgia. We stopped at a gas station around 6 a.m. and it was still very dim outside. My sister and I were dead asleep until we heard my mum leave the car. My sister was still asleep. Let me set up the scene real quick. Me and my sister were laying in the back seat. Her head was on the opposite side of the car, and we were directly next to each other on the seat, so I could see perfectly out of her side of the window. Anyway, I wake up and I'm really groggy, but suddenly my attention is jerked to maximum capacity when I heard a horrifying pitchy laugh that didn't even sound real. In that moment though, I was in some weird lucid dream state until I snapped back to reality. I sat up 90 degrees and looked out the windshield. And there was this man with a red balloon dressed up very similarly to the original Pennywise, but dirtier and cheaper. I watched in actual disbelief as he went from person to person, laughing in people's faces. He went up to a little girl of about 6 and her mother, pinched their cheeks, got up in her face and said something along the lines of, "Hey princess, wanna be my friend?" And when the mum hit him and screamed to get the hell away from them, he started maniacally laughing. Then he skipped over to my mum's car, saw me inside, literally shaking under my blanket, and pressed his face up against the glass really hard, and started pointing and laughing. I pulled the blankets up above my head, but I could still hear him laughing his butt off. I swear I heard him try and jiggle the door handle a few times as well. The only thing that sent him away was the same mother of the little girl yelling at him and threatening to call the police. I heard him leave, and so when I sat up I saw him skipping away, and he was still laughing. It almost sounded like gagging at this point. I mean, honestly, about 45 minutes after he left, we came across an active missing person search in a forest by the road, not too far away from that gas station. I have no idea if he was involved, but I remember riding by and feeling like it could have easily been my sister or I. I was 15 then, and 19 now. I'm a 19-year-old dude that loves horror movies, gore and scary things. but the details of this weird-ass experience have never left my mind. Although I was really upset at the time, I'm glad I have an interesting story to share with all of you. But it's really scary to think about what would have happened if the car doors weren't locked. Makes me nauseous. This happened about 2 years ago. One day after work, about 5, me and a girl I worked with decided to go see a movie. It was a rough shift, and her and I felt like a movie would be nice. She asked if we could stop by her house so she could change clothes from our work uniform. I said it was fine since it was maybe 5 minutes away tops. We stayed at her house for a bit, ate a quick snack, then got in my car. She asked if we could stop by the gas station by her house so she could grab a Red Bull. Once again, I was fine with that because it was near her house. I drove to the gas station, and the only parking was on the side of an abandoned car wash next to the gas station. To form a better image, the gas station and car wash were right next to each other, both entrances facing the same way. It was entirely dark outside. The gas station was a fairly run-down one and didn't have any lights at the gas pumps like most do, so it was pitch black except for the light coming from my car. A semi-truck was on the other side of the gas station and had cones indicating the area that would inhibit the driver to do what he needed. So I assumed the parking spots wouldn't be too close, and I parked. My friend got out and went inside, and I decided to stay in the car since she would only be a few minutes. I locked my doors after she got out, as it was a force of habit to do so. I went on my phone for a bit, and after a few minutes I saw a light flash on the driver's side mirror of my car. I turned to look, since it was pointing in my direction. The truck driver had a flashlight pointing at my window, and just held it there for a few seconds. I was kind of freaked out, but assumed he had a reason for doing so. He then began walking towards my window, still with the flashlight on, and I rolled my window down no more than an inch, assuming maybe he was just going to tell me to move my car. He stopped when he got 2 to 3 feet away from my window and just turned around. At this point I was pretty scared, just because there was no reason for what he did. So I rolled my window back up and waited for my friend. I'm still watching the guy just in case, and I see him rummaging around in the front part of his semi for a bit. Then he stopped and turned back to my car. There was something in his hand. I'm not sure what, and I'm glad I don't know. He began walking towards my window. He was saying something, and it was in a rather loud volume, but inaudible. He got to my door this time and tried to open it. He tried to pull the handle a few times, but he couldn't open it, then started to pull more aggressively. My friend came out the gas station and was walking towards my car, and she looked scared. I was scared. The guy saw her coming to my car and walked back to his truck, and I drove away as quickly as possible. I'm not entirely sure what happened or what was going to happen. The only theory my friend had was that maybe when he saw that I was a girl, the first time he had the flashlight, he assumed I'd be a good target for something. That's just a theory though. I'm glad I won't ever have to find out what he was doing. This happened around 8 to 9 years ago. My husband and I are driving back from Michigan as we went to visit my parents, and by the time we get into the remote back area of Ohio, it's dark. Dark being around 12 a.m. when we get into the backwoods, and by the time we hit the small towns it was around 1 or 2 a.m. We always make sure our doors are locked because we aren't stupid. Anyway, we make a quick stop to use the restrooms, stretch, and get something to drink. We get back on the road, and we're going along, and we slow down to stop for a road sign, and this woman walks out right in front of us, and I slam on the brakes to keep from hitting her. We sit there for a minute collecting ourselves, and think, what the hell? She knocks on the passenger side window where my husband's sitting, and I tell him to not roll it down, and to let's just get the hell out of here. But he, being the kind-hearted guy he is, rolls down his window. She tells us that she'd been walking for hours and that her car broke down. She can't get a hold of her daughter and that she has no money and needs $50 for a cab. Quite specific, right? He tells her to hold on, rolls up the window, and I'm telling him no, You've got to be nuts. Do not let her in this truck. And he gives me this spiel that she needs help and stuff. Hate me all you like, but I learnt the hard way to never trust people, especially strangers. And I told him that I didn't give a flying monkeys if she were bleeding on the ground. She was not getting in my truck. He guilts me into letting her in. Now I'm driving a Ford F-150, and there's only one seat, so we're all crammed, and I ask her where she's going. She says to a store, then says she needs to find a cab but has no money and if we can give her $50. I'm silently telling my husband, like hell are we giving her money as we're driving her, but relents and says yes. We drive and she's telling us all kinds of stories about her daughter, how she needs to get home, how her daughter's 16 at home alone, that it's about 2 hours away in Ohio. The more we drive, the more it changes. I ask her about her daughter, and this time she's in her late 20s, has a few kids, and is in Kentucky. I said, oh, I thought she was 16 home alone and 2 hours away in Ohio. She says, oh, that's my younger daughter. It's my adult daughter I'm going to see. Okay, that makes no damn sense. She just said she came from Kentucky. We find an ATM and thankfully it's broken. We push on to find another, and the more she talks, the weirder she gets. She tries cozying up to my husband and sweet-talking him, and he is oblivious to women hitting on him. So she moves on to me and I refuse to accept it by constantly changing the subject. Then it gets stranger. She says, are you two married? We reply, yes. Oh, that's good, because I would have had to call Jesus down to smite you if you were living in sin. We were both thinking, what? Then says, you two are a very nice Christian couple. And we both reply, we're not Christian. She gets upset by this and starts spouting the Bible at us, and the hubby is retorting back at her. We finally reach another ATM, and this entire time the hubby and I have been communicating through signals that we need to get the nut job out the car. We pull up, and he says I need to get out of the car to get to the ATM, and she says, just have your wife pull up and use it. He says, no one uses my card but me. Then she goes, have your wife get out. And he replies, her door's broken and only the passenger door works, which is a lie of course, but we needed to get her out. She gets out and he grabs the door to pull it closed, and she grabs the door and starts screaming at us to let her back in. As she's trying to get back in, he says to her, no, your story's full of holes and doesn't add up. She pulls out this knife, assuming like a switchblade, and my husband shoves her, and I peel out of the bank parking lot with the door still open. He shuts it and locks it. She chases us screaming that she's gonna kill us, and I floor it, pushing the gas pedal to the floor, and we're doing 120 and don't let up for 4 miles until my husband is screaming, slow down, you're gonna kill us. I do, and I'm shaking, part due to anger and part due to being freaked the hell out. We made it home safely, but crazy lady that tried to rob us and stab my husband. Let's never meet again. One day about 3 years ago, I was at my house with my younger sister and our friend. We were about 20 to 21 years old, all females. We were hungry and decided to go out and grab some sushi. On the way to the restaurant, I noticed I was low on gas, so I stopped to get some. I pulled up to the pump and parked the car. I went into the gas station to pay while my sister and our friend waited in the car. As I was walking across the parking lot into the store, I noticed a man staring at me with a creepy smirk on his face. We made eye contact and he yelled across the parking lot, "Hey beautiful, why aren't you smiling?" I didn't respond or even acknowledge him. However, a young woman who witnessed this said to him, "Do not tell her to smile, she doesn't have to do anything for you." To this day I think about that woman. I thanked her and continued to walk into the store. As I stood patiently in the line, the same man walked in, came right over to me in the line and started to touch me. He was rubbing my arm and lower back and I pulled away and said loudly, "Get away from me, I don't know you. Don't touch me or I'll defend myself." Other customers and the cashier were watching us as I caused a scene. He whispered in my ear and told me to shut up so people didn't think he's a creep. Suddenly the man ran out the store and to my car with my sister and friend still in it. I ran after him. He opened the car door and started to say something to them when I yanked him back so hard from his shirt collar and punched him in the face. He proceeded to, of course, call me some lovely things and every other name in the book, but he left us alone and got in his car and drove away. I'm much more aware of my surroundings now. To the creepy gas station man, let's not meet again. Let me take you back to one of the creepiest encounters I've had in my life. For reference, 25-year-old female here. I'd like to set the scene. This happened 8 years ago. I was living in a dingy little motel with my mother in a terrible area in metro Atlanta. The motel was full of the types of folks you'd expect to see there. You had your pimps, you had your ladies of the night, and you had a couple of dealers, but you mostly saw their clientele. I personally was never bothered. It was what it was, and 17-year-old me liked to think of myself as a mini gangster, despite being a whopping 5'3" and 110 pounds, but I wasn't worried. So here I am hanging out at the motel with my boyfriend one lovely dark winter night. We were both antsy and bored out our minds, so decided to take a walk on the gas station across the street for some cigarrillos. Sure, it's late, but the gas station is only across the street. What can happen between here and there? I forgot to mention previously that directly in front of the right half of the hotel is a Waffle House. Like you pretty much pull into Waffle House and drive past it just a tad to end up at the motel parking lot. I only mention it because the location matters a little. Anyway, so we set off. The boyfriend and I are arguing, so we barely even noticed when this woman popped out from behind the Waffle House building. But when we did notice, we instantly went silent. This large woman was stomping towards us. I don't mean large like overweight. I mean large as in everything. She was way taller than me and had at least half a foot on my boyfriend, who sat at 5'7". And sure, she was overweight too. I only mentioned her weight and height to help you understand that she was just a really big lady, which made her quite intimidating. When she approached us, her face twisted in a way that looked both angry and confused, and I wasn't feeling very G anymore. As I stood in front of us, she just stared at us with that same face, eyes moving back and forth between my boyfriend and myself. So I take a step or two back behind my boyfriend when this lady finally speaks. "Where's the crack?" I couldn't tell if it was a question or a demand. Either way, we didn't have any. And we told her that. "You're lying. I know some of you have some." "No, we don't." We told her that again, but she was becoming increasingly angry as we kept repeating that we didn't have any. So finally I'm like, "Look, lady, we don't have any crack. Try the other side of the hotel. I bet there's someone with some over there." I felt like it was sound advice because we really didn't have anything, and someone likely would have it over there. I just wanted her to leave, but I guess that bothered her more, because as we started to retreat towards the store, she screams at us, "How would you know? Unless you have it." Once she said that, I realized there was no convincing her that we truly did not have any crack. So we noped out of there. I was nervous about walking back, but you gotta do what you gotta do, and fortunately for us, she was nowhere in sight. So we locked ourselves in my room, put the cigarrillo to good use while we laughed about what happened, and I assumed she went to the other side and found what she was looking for. And even better, I never saw her again. And to be clear, I do not judge with those addictions. As someone who has lost and almost lost family to it, I find it incredibly heartbreaking and place no judgment on those who get sucked into its spiral. I hope the woman ended up getting help, and I hope the same for all the addicts out there. If that happens to be you, let me tell you this: you are strong and you can do it. You got this. But to the creepy lady demanding I give her my non-existent crack, I hope to never encounter you again. Let me take you back 25 years to a deserted highway in the United States. I want to keep as much information as possible anonymous, but will tell you what I can. I worked a job that required me to travel from different states to check various facilities. I can't name what they were specifically. But a job like this does involve a lot of driving, and as such, it was one of my usual days driving to work. Today's assignment was taking me to Ohio. I was about 4 hours away, hadn't really driven this way before, or at least not in a long time, and I was just listening to the radio and chewing on a granola bar, waiting for the next gas station as I really needed a leak. I had been busting for a while, and after a short time did I find a run-down gas station in the middle of nowhere. Great, just what I needed. The sky was already getting quite dark at this point, and the fluorescent neon lights shining above the pumps were all that illuminated this dingy little run-down spot in the middle of nowhere. I pulled up and took in the scenery, breathed a cold sigh, and went to fill up the car before relieving myself and getting my much-needed snacks. I looked around. It was empty. There was not a single soul around, save for the cashier who I was assuming was probably in the back of the gas station. I see the gas meter fill up, and when it's finally done, do I put the cork back in my car and walk over and into the gas station. I remember it like it was yesterday. It had some terrible band from that era playing on the radio, and I was just thinking to myself they needed better taste in music. I didn't even look at the cashier first, so intent on finding the bathroom and collecting my snacks. The bathroom, as the sign said, was just on a little door to my left, so I busted through and made use of the facilities while I still had the chance. Once I was done, I walked out, and that's when I noticed a strange smell. It was a bit weird, I thought. Could it have been a cleaning product that they used? I made my way, grabbed some chips and a few other bits, and my mandatory Hershey's bar. That's when I made my way to the counter. I noticed the cashier was completely absent. I didn't want to be late. I was already running a little bit late anyway, but thought if I sped I could probably make it in time. But now the cashier was absent, and I was losing my patience. I placed my candy and snacks and drink on the counter and yelled, "Hello, is anyone here?" I tapped on the desk a few times after about a minute, but no one came. It was starting to get on my nerves. Surely someone was working here. How the hell was I supposed to pay for my gas? I waited about 3 more minutes, patiently waiting, sure that whoever was probably in the security building was about to come out. Maybe they were in the staff toilets, I don't know. I started perusing a magazine while waiting, really wasting my time and getting more and more annoyed. So I started to walk towards the staff-only door, clearly labeled staff only, and decided to give it a little knock. I knocked the door, but there was no reply. This time, starting to get concerned, I started to push the door open, and that's when the smell hit me. It was a very peculiar smell, and as I pushed it open more and more, did I see the cashier lying in a pool of blood next to some crates. I instantly rushed to him and asked if he was okay. I wasn't sure if he was dead or not, and I started freaking out. So I grabbed my cell phone, but there was obviously no service here. Crap. I was sure that I had seen a phone outside the gas station, so I ran out and dialed 911. I told the police what happened, and they said that they were going to send an ambulance, but that it would take at least 40 minutes to get there, as well as several cops. The cops arrived first. I think the kid was pretty much on his way out. I never found out if he made it or not. Either way, that was an interesting excuse for being late for work. I don't think I'll ever forget it. I managed to pay, the manager came in the end, and every time I passed that gas station in the future, I always asked myself if the kid had survived or not, but never had the balls to go in and check or ask. I thought it would be imprudent, let alone the fact that if he had survived, I doubt he'd have worked there anyway. But it always leaves me wondering, what the hell happened there? Maybe a robbery? Guess I'll never know. I've shared this story enough times to appreciate that not everyone is going to believe me. But I'm leaving it here for all of you to see what you will make of it. Let me take you back to the 1990s. Me and my then girlfriend were traveling around Australia, trying to do the West Coast. It was one hell of a journey. We were driving a car that we had just bought a few weeks ago. Our goal was to try and go all around Australia. Not that we made it. We ran out of cash eventually. Not long after this story, in fact. But the story really begins in the middle of nowhere, roughly around 7 p.m. The sun was just about to set, and we were laughing and having a good time in the car. That's when I noticed that our gas was running slightly low. I knew a gas station was coming up from my map and was excited about the prospect of getting a few drinks and a snack. It'd be a long drive still, maybe an all-nighter until we got to our destination. The plan was that I was going to drive until about 10, swap, and then my girlfriend drive for a few hours, and just take turns that way so that we could reach it by that day. So we're driving, and the gas meter is going steadily south, and I see that we're going to run out of fuel any minute now. I swear the number was almost on 0, and I was starting to panic. That's when we see it in the distance, a gas station, poorly lit, but there it was, a beacon of neon glory shining out in all the gloom. As we slowly pull up, we see a gang of bikers not too far off. Now, saying this place was dingy was an understatement. It looks like it'd been built in the 50s and forgotten about until then. But nonetheless, we were desperate for gas. My girlfriend said to save time, she'd go in and grab the drinks while I could fill up the gas, and then we'd pay and go. So I started filling up. I'm there standing, just minding my own business, and I'm cautious about the bikers behind me. I try not to look at them. But just to make sure that one wasn't approaching me, I have a quick look around, make it casual and nonchalant. I look all around in every direction, just make sure they are where they are, and to my surprise, they start flying off, just driving away. Great, I thought. Just me and my girlfriend at the gas station. Now I don't have to worry about getting mugged or something. Not that I have a problem with bikers, but we had been mugged a few days earlier, so, it was on my mind. My girlfriend comes back a few minutes later, says she's paid and we're about ready to leave. But then she blurts out that she has to pee. So there I go, waiting in the car for her to pee. She goes to the restroom, and I'm waiting for about 5 minutes, getting bored, tapping my thumbs on the dashboard. I'm thinking, what the hell? Why is it taking so long? Maybe the peep turned to a poop. 10 minutes later, I'm really bored now. Remember that we really wanted to make it to our next destination by morning, and these small time wastes were really getting on my nerves. So I close the car door and don't lock it because there's no one around and we are in the middle of nowhere, and start making my way towards the shack where my girlfriend was allegedly peeing. I call out to my girlfriend, "Sharon, you okay, honey?" I get no reply. I start to get concerned. Did something happen? Now, these stalls were literally just like saloon doors, and I could easily just look over the top if I jumped. Knowing that there was no one there and I wouldn't be disrespecting anyone else's privacy, I quickly did a little jump to see if she was on the stall, and she wasn't. That was the designated female restroom. Finding it a bit weird that she wouldn't hear me or reply, I jumped up at the male restroom and she was gone. Then a thought crossed my mind. Did the bikers take my girlfriend? I just about crapped myself, thinking that's maybe why they went off in a hurry. No, it couldn't be. She came back after they'd left, I told myself. But I was starting to doubt. What the hell was going on here? I busted the door open, and she wasn't in either of them. They weren't locked. I walked all around the small shack, and she wasn't behind it either. It was dark by now, and I couldn't see into the vast expanse of emptiness surrounding us. So I called out, "Sharon, honey?" Of course, I was met with pure silence. So I walk around the convenience store part shouting and seeing if she's there, when my last thought is that maybe there's an additional restroom within there. So I calm down a little bit, open the door, and go speak to the cashier and ask if there was a restroom inside. He gives me a brief nod to where I had just come from, the restrooms outside, and I explained that my girlfriend had just come in here and bought some stuff and paid for the gas. Where was she? The guy shrugged his shoulders. He couldn't have cared less. I asked if there was a toilet in here, and he said there was, but it was staff only. Thinking to myself that maybe she just ignored the sign, I walked up to the staff-only restroom and just knocked on the door. "Sharon, are you okay?" There was no reply. That's when I looked down at the handle. It was green, meaning not locked. I pulled down the handle slowly, but she wasn't inside. At this point, I was really starting to get concerned. I didn't have a phone back then. I mean, they were rare, and I thought I needed to call the cops. I didn't know what to do. Was she playing a prank on me? So I looked underneath the car and looked everywhere I thought she could possibly be, and by this point I was freaking out. So I asked the guy if there was a payphone, and there wasn't. He told me that if I wanted a phone, I'd have to drive to the nearest town a good 20 minutes away. Crap, I thought. But what if Sharon comes back? I don't even know where she's gone. If the toilets were so dirty, I mean, would she really have traveled all the way in the darkness to a field to pee or something? My mind was losing it with concern. I was genuinely getting scared. But thinking that I didn't have another choice, after about 20 minutes of waiting, I jumped on my car and started the drive. I drove for about 5 minutes before I saw Sharon on the road. I pulled over immediately and shouted to her, asking her what the hell she was doing. She gave me the most funny look and said, "You're not going to believe me if I told you." She said that she was peeing in the little stall and came out, but when she left the stall, there was nothing there. No gas station, no anything. Most of all, I was gone in the car. She had a panic attack, started crying, and said she fell to her knees in despair, so confused as to what happened, and just began walking along the road, always looking back to see if I were coming. By this point, it had been nearly 40 minutes, and she had been walking a fair distance, and I could see the tears in her eyes and how the mascara had run down her face. I was feeling a deep knot in the pit of my stomach. I didn't really know what to say. I asked if she was feeling all right and maybe if the heat was getting to her, but she said that she was fine. She said what happened, and I couldn't offer an explanation, but did say, "Let's drive back so that we can see the gas station and maybe get you properly hydrated." It was only at that point that I noticed that she hadn't gotten snacks and drinks. And this time, we see the gas station, but not like we saw it before. It was run down. The store had been completely deserted. The shacks non-existent. What the hell was going on here? Were we in some weird time slip? I honestly don't know what to say. I really don't. I've got no words. I have no idea what was going on. But only me and Sharon truly believe the story, as we're the ones who experienced it. We broke up a few months after for unrelated reasons, but keep in touch via Facebook, and the only time I ever brought up the story, she corroborated everything exactly as I remembered it. I live in a city known, sadly, for its crime rate, even though it's an awesome place to be. My street has a lot of variety in race and income level, and generally the vibe is live and let live. We all know each other from sight. One evening I was walking to the top of my street to get something from the gas station on the corner. I leave my driveway, and as I do so I see a pretty rough-looking guy on the other side of the street, walking the same way I'll be, more or less directly across from me. The apartments across from me are rougher too, except when he sees me, I can tell he's thinking about something, like he sees me, and then he's considering something. I see him look both ways and then I hear him jaywalk to my side of the street. I've already turned at this point. He reaches my side and I hear him about 10 feet away say, "Hey man, what's up?" I glance back and say, "Hey dude," and pick up my pace. He's walking fairly quick too, and heavily. I really pour on the walking speed and eventually I don't hear his footsteps anymore. I think he must have fallen back or turned off the road. There are two paths to the gas station from my street. You can walk down the sidewalk nearly to the intersection and then go through the parking lot, or you can leave the sidewalk a bit earlier for a dirt path that's quicker and takes you right along the back and side of the gas station to the front. I go for the sidewalk, don't hear the guy, and don't see him as I turn into the lot. He pops up right behind me from the dirt path. I'm in near panic mode. The entrance to the gas station is 10 feet away and I dart inside. I turn around to face this guy. I figure the cameras are right here on the inside entrance and his face will be on them at this angle. There were two attendants right there. I'm gonna just make myself big and go really loud, "What are you doing here, man?" As I open my mouth to say it, the guy power walks past me, a look of total surprise on his face and goes, "Wait, you really had to piss too?" and blows past me straight to the bathrooms, wafting the booze smell on him into my nostrils. The guy was hammered. He'd been trying to cross the street for a while already. The mental math I watched him do before crossing was, "Oh man, this dude's gonna think I'm gonna try and jump in. What can I do? I know. I'll say something when I'm behind him so he knows I'm not sneaking up on him." And he was probably relieved when he took the dirt path and I didn't, thinking he wouldn't run into me again. Hey guys, it's Mort here. Thank you so much for listening. Who knew? Gas stations. Quite creepy. Well, there you have it. If you liked tonight's video, you know what to do. Where the like button is, where the subscribe button is, and where the bell button is to be updated every time I post. And you know, for those of you who haven't subscribed but listen frequently, go on, sub. You know you want to. And press the bell icon for new horrors every night at roughly the same time. So, you know, you don't miss anything. Well, I'd also like to extend a huge thank you to my patrons and members. If you would like to donate a really small amount of money, like literally give me a cup of coffee every month, I mean, I'd really appreciate it because it all adds up and helps keep the channel running. And yeah, you get cool prizes for doing so. So think about it. 1 cup of coffee, 2 cups of coffee. It's a nice thing to do. But for now, I'll leave you all here. Stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next one.